Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Oh, hi!
Oh, hello. Hallo.
Hi!
Hallo.
Hallo.
Tag. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. Und? Wie sieht's aus? Wie geht's?
Alles okay. Alles okay. Mein Sohn ist immer noch tot, aber alles sonst okay.
Oh Gott.
Alles sonst okay.
All right.
That's my drab sense of humor.
Starting,
We'll keep it
starting
untranslated.
in a dark place.
We'll keep it untranslated. How about that?
Let
the Americans, let the Englishmen Google Translate that one if you want a good dark sense of humor. This is the Schnitzel Boys Deutschland Hour. It's Schnitzel night, Monday night, my favorite night, maybe your favorite night. For those of you listening on the podcast world, join us live, YouTube. If you want to get involved with the chat, we have Hans Wolf in the chat, Schnitzel Cup regular and a friend of ours, Hans Wolf. If you want to get in the chat and talk at us live Monday nights, I'm thinking of one of these days. We're thinking of bringing call into the show. Bjorn, what do you think? Having people call in with their voice.
It's gonna be wild.
We'll see. We'll see. A project for down the road. You know, we've got certain evolutions here. I have a surprise, Bjorn. By the way.
Oh, what is it?
It's not available today. I'll bring it up later. But a friend of mine on Instagram shared a funny little story about, like, if you don't have blank, are you even a podcast? And shared a bunch of clips from all these big podcasts. They all have one very specific decoration item in the background. And I went ahead and bought one. So at some point in a couple weeks when I get it.
You're not going to tell us?
Well, what do you think? What do you think it is? Why don't you guess?
Like a background that every podcast has except ours?
Yes.
I got nothing.
A neon sign.
Oh, that says the Schnitzel Boys?
I ordered a neon sign that said the Schnitzel Boys. I have to figure out how to put it. Like, I'll put it right here somewhere. I'll put it right on the wall right here or something, so people can sort of see it in the background. And I also have another big project, which is not going to be public, is I'm building a bunch of sound absorption panels off a video I found on YouTube. I'm building them from scratch, and they should be ready to go by next week. And my voice will stop being so echoey, and it'll have that beautiful, crisp sound that I love.
You sound all right.
Thanks. I'm going to sound even more all right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? I have a lot of ideas, a lot of weird things. I am obsessed with always being better. And you know who's obsessed with always being better, Bjorn?
Pellegrino Matarazzo.
Pellegrino, sure. I would have accepted most answers. Pellegrino
Matarazzo. You changed it used to be that Puccini tune. No, you're just riffing. All right.
Now I'm free balling. Let's do it.
We're gonna go for round two. Pellegrino Matarazzo.
There we go.
All right. I was totally cold. Went into that totally cold.
And we crushed it. Pellegrino Matarazzo.
Well, he deserves a song, yeah, because that's it. He saved Hoffenheim.
He saved Hoffenheim, his club that he was once a youth coach at. He's now took him over. He's saved them. He's staved them clear off relegation, and he started with a 5-game losing skid.
Yeah,
So
he
good
said
on
this
him.
is. He came in. He's like, this is too easy. I'm gonna make it a little harder first, and then I will show you.
So okay, so this is a big show. Last week we're like, all right, it's the big, great idea. Them softening boards. The soundboards.
Hans Wolf is telling you sound bad.
No. Well, he's right. It's a really echoey room. I moved, and my old room had better sound, so I've been trying to. I probably need to get a carpet too. Well, we'll figure that out. I'll give you updates throughout my time.
Yeah,
but right
please.
now, it's Bundesliga talk, and there is something. Every club deserves a mention. Pretty much, all clubs have something we talked about. Last week we talked about RB Leipzig and Bayern München, the big game, and I was doubtful. I said 30 minutes in, Bayern's
Yes, you were.
dominate. I guess I underestimated the chaos that's going on behind the scenes at Bayern München, and Bayern München lost that game 3-1.
Yeah.
Again, a little bit of a weird game because Bayern München scored, they dominated, they held the ball.
You were predicting a blowout the other direction.
Exactly, that's not what happened. And then towards the end of the game, RB Leipzig got 2 quick ones, including a penalty. Didn't they get? It was 2 penalties, right?
2 penalties, yes. Handball and a foul.
All justified, right? 2 good penalties.
Yeah,
I think, and
not controversial. No, in the end.
But similar to the Mainz game many weeks ago, Bayern München were dominant. They held the ball; it was their ball the whole time. They got the early goal.
Yeah, Serge
they had a couple
Gnabry, very authoritative.
And back, it's good to see him in his old form. We haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, he seems to be thriving more under Tuchel.
Right. But RB Leipzig got away with that win. They were able to get a couple of. They were to punch him in the face there towards the end, get a few goals, and get out of that arena with a win. So good for RB Leipzig.
It felt weird, right? It felt weird in the sense that Leipzig weren't even all that good. Like you,
No.
right? Like you, it just, this Bayern team just is not the sturdy mental force of old. They are it's a fragile bunch, and the later it got, the more crumbly it became, because it wasn't like, it came a little out of nowhere. You didn't like, oh, Leipzig. I mean, that the equalizer was great. Konrad Laimer, future Bayern player,
right? Picking up loose ball in the box and slamming it in the back of the net.
Yeah, and it was a little unlucky. It was like sort of weirdly deflected. They had it was a 3-on-2 counter, but kind of bounced off a Bayern defender, and but it didn't feel, and you didn't think, oh, Leipzig is definitely going to win. But yeah, it was just sort of this Bayern team just is not a winning team.
Yeah, deservedly they're going to. I mean, we don't know yet.
We do not know yet because
we don't know because it's 1 week left.
Is Dortmund gonna find a way to bottle it? But
that's why I named it.
I mean, that was a. I don't know if you want to, because that game was a 3-0 victory for Dortmund. But if you watched it, it was a little nervier than the result kind of makes it seem. Because that was the first goal didn't come until an hour in, and it seemed like, oh, are they gonna maybe not do it?
Right. Get
yet another opportunity that they're not gonna take. But no, this time they did.
This episode's called The Bottle Battle because
the bottle battle, very nice.
Because seemingly, right, it's such an odd season because no one is seizing the day. No one is just usurping the chance to win. Like you said, except, because Dortmund did get their win. But like you said, it was like an hour long and before they broke the deadlock. And the whole time it's like, oh, God, this is going to be a scoreless draw. It's like they're not doing it. They did do it, thankfully, to Dortmund. All credit to them. They did get their win. And they have set themselves up. They're 2 points atop of the table. I think setting themselves up for winning the league next week. First time in 11 seasons. that they won. First time in 11 seasons that anyone other than Bayern München won.
Yeah.
However, it's only half what they're doing, and half that Bayern München essentially are internally falling apart. Like I said, they're just fragile. There's something up with Bayern München behind the scenes, and that's why the analysts are out trying to rip and be like, so is Tuchel right? Should they fire Nagelsmann? Oliver Kahn and Brazzo out. Thomas Muller, is he too old? Sadio Mane, was he a fluke? They're just analyzing and analyzing and analyzing.
But it makes sense because there's no obvious. I mean, they're missing Lewandowski. I mean, the Captain Obvious answer is that they're missing Lewandowski. They do not, they are not scoring at the same rate that they used to.
No, and they should
it doesn't seem like the squad. It's Choupo-Moting is also not playing. He's also hurt. So they're just kind of. Thomas Müller was back in the starting lineup. He was not super effective. But it's not obvious. There's a lot of talent on that team. It's not like you look at them and say, "Oh, this is a mediocre squad." No, they're quite a strong team. But something's not right.
Rumors are Kimmich's heading to Barcelona. He's had enough since they got rid of Julian Nagelsmann. It's clear that there's not a lot of cohesion behind the scenes. It seems like there's a few different camps. A lot of egos are getting the better of people. It seems like they're just not unified. Anyway, but with that being said, that's FC Hollywood, baby. That's Bayern München. And I'll argue Lewandowski, big loss, obviously. They were way too quick to get rid of him. But it was time. I thought last summer was fine. They made good money off him.
I mean, he really wanted to go.
He wanted to go.
And he wanted.
And they got Sadio Mane.
He wanted a lot of money. Yeah, and that's hasn't worked. I mean, because he's just missed a lot of time. And
but what I was saying is, you know who the bigger loss was? Who as big as Lewandowski was?
Manuel Neuer.
Thiago. They lost Thiago 2 or 3 seasons ago, I believe, to Liverpool, right? And that was a bigger loss than people are realizing. Thiago was a very creative force in the holding midfield. He was a key figure of those great Bayern teams, sort of understated. And him leaving was the first piece they couldn't really replace. Him plus Lewandowski, then of course plus Neuer. You're right. That's just a trio. That's just too many. That's just too big of a loss. So, could they have still won the Bundesliga without them? Yes. I think if they never fired Julian Nagelsmann, in hindsight, I think their season probably would have ended up much better than it was now. I would say, right? Is that too big of a thing?
I mean, I don't know. Do you think?
Well, they were doing I understand it wasn't amazing. There were a couple of cracks showing, but they were still.
They weren't first place. They were first place. Yep.
Like again,
I mean, obviously, if you go by the results, they were they're not winning anything. If this all turns out, I mean, this would be really the classic ending if somehow Dortmund does not find a way to beat Mainz, who really seem like they're already on summer vacation early.
Yeah.
But if they somehow pulled it together and gave them a battle, then that would be the ultimate irony. But let's just say that doesn't happen and Dortmund wins at home and becomes the new champion. Then I guess then the Tuchel thing. I mean, I think it's you can say that is a mistake. That was a mistake to kind of make that kind of change in the middle of a season with this already fragile situation. And they thought, oh, it can't get any worse, but it definitely could get it did get worse.
Now, granted, long term this might have been a good move. Like history might prove them correct, but short term, seemingly, in my opinion, would have been better to wait till the summertime. Give Nagelsmann the whole season, then wait till the summertime.
And he had nothing. Yeah, he did nothing wrong except nobody seemed to like him except Kimmich, who is now.
Well, he went skiing after the Bayer Leverkusen loss. People keep bringing that up, and that apparently is a big part of why he got fired. When they lost to Bayer Leverkusen, he went skiing because I'm noticing a theme here, Bjorn.
With the skiing and the Bayern?
The skiing and the München and the Alps and you with your skiing.
Oh, yeah. I factor in. All right.
Yeah, you're related. No, it seems like, but so if you live in München, you make $1 billion a year. You go skiing, right? Or am I wrong? The Alps are right there.
You do not need to make $1 billion a year. A lot of people do it. It's not, it's for everyone, especially in that part of the world. It's
see, exactly. So skiing is a thing, right? Especially
it's for sure a thing. Yeah.
However, it seems like Bayern München are really like their coach and their goalkeeper went skiing and they both got in trouble for it. It seems like Bayern München doesn't want their people to go skiing anymore.
I mean, I guess when things go bad, then you find reasons, right? Like
no skiing. Kein
Skifahren. Skiing. That's been the problem. It's been the problem all along. All that skiing.
The other reason I bring that up is because Bayern München and Borussia Dortmund are both flawed heroes. They are both fighting over the title, and neither of them are yelling from the hilltops, "We are the best." They're sort of both very flawed.
Yeah, I mean, they both
flawed teams are stumbling over the winner this year. Would you agree?
They're both just I would say so. They're both a little bit above 2 points a game, but not much. And I think generally it takes more than that to win the league. This year,
both left Europe early. Both left the cup early, right? Yeah. Sorry, we'll fly here. So that's the top. Two flawed heroes. Will Dortmund do it? I'm rooting for Dortmund because for crying out loud.
Yeah, we want to be we want a little bit of. I mean, I'm no Dortmund fan, but I think I'm. Right. Yeah. I mean, I also I committed months ago to Dortmund winning this, so I'd be nice to finally get something right.
Yeah, I agree. You did it right. You said Bayern München weren't going to get a perfect amount of points, and you're right. They lost 3 points to Leipzig. Now Dortmund has got their big moments coming up next week. We will be there tuning in live on TV, not in the grounds, of course. So that's the top. Let's work our way down. So we got the top done. Bayern München are analyzed. Even if they win, Bayern München are probably going to have a big summer of themselves. Borussia Dortmund less so. They don't. I think that they're more than fine with how their season turned out. They're going to have to cope with losing players, Adeyemi and Jude Bellingham.
I was just going to say, a lot of people are going, right?
So let's hope they win it now because it's looking like, next season. And you know what? I'm going to eat some crow here. They got a coach I didn't believe in. They got rid of Erling Haaland, and they're about to win the league title after those two moves. And I'm like, hey, but dang, well done, you guys. A flawed hero, but you did it. You know what you're doing, I guess. You're about, hopefully, knock on wood, you're going to win the league title.
Well, they did well. I mean, reinvesting the money. Sebastian Haller, after his cancer scare, has become an important and focal point of the offense. Jude Bellingham took another step forward. Adeyemi has been very good. We don't even talk about the young wingers, Gio Reyna and Roscoe Gibbons, Alexander Arnold,
Bruno Kittens.
They barely even find any time, and they were pretty. They were looking promising for a while. So the Dortmund has had enough depth, and they have had their struggles, like you're saying. Not a perfect team. Their it was always about their defending. They've been scoring goals. They've at a good clip. But the defense was up and down, especially in the first half of the season. And but they got it together. The Süle, Hummels, Schlotterbeck. It was kind of constant. I think they still don't quite know who their favorite pairing is of those three, but it seems like they all did well enough to make it happen. And now one more game for them to win. Leipzig, if we want to make a
all I was going to say is Süle leaving on a free to Borussia Dortmund has proven to be an excellent choice, hasn't it? Again, another one I was doubtful of. Well, he's about to win a league title with his new club.
Okay, again, but but we're still. I think he's probably the third best still. I think you could make the case that
I just meant him personally.
I'm saying the fact that Mats Hummels still gets as much time as he is sort of a referendum on how little they trust Süle.
Yeah. Mats Hummels sharing a picture of him with a black eye. You see that photo being like it was worth it. He got a black eye over the last game.
But it seems
so
like
anyway,
he's good to go. I mean, because he was really for a while was the Achilles heel of that defense, but they still need him.
Mats or Süle or Schlotterbeck?
Hummels.
All three of them Mats are the Achilles heel of that defense.
Yeah. But he for a while, especially early this season, it looked like he had, Father Time had caught up with him, and he was not going to be a starter anymore. But he found his way back, and also I think it was because nobody else really grabbed that spot.
Yeah. Yep. And
Emre Can, I think that's another. There's a bunch of sort of vintage performers on that team, and also
Emre Can showed up though. He had a very disappointing.
That's what I'm saying. Like this has enabled them to get this far. They've had a few guys like Marco Reus, Emre Can, who are certainly at the end of their careers, or more closer to the end than the beginning of their careers, have played good seasons for them.
Yeah, Emre Can, I believe, famously was on the Juventus books, but he was not registered for the Champions League squad. One of those guys. Right. Clearly was told he's surplus to requirements. Maybe had greater promise when he was younger, but he showed up back to his old club, Dortmund, and showed the dude could still have gas left in his tank, and I love to see that. It's also crafty German Bundesliga-ing to sign a player that had potential, a little past his prime, a little off form, to take him at on a bargain bin price, and try to get the best out of them. And they do it. So well done. RB Leipzig, like you said, comfortably in third place. Well, they started off very poorly this season. They had a lot of promise this year. Started poorly. But under Marco Rose, with Christopher Nkunku, they had a lot of bad luck with injuries this year, I think was the big thing. Mm-hmm. With their goalkeeper, with Golashi and Christopher Nkunku especially. But Nkunku's back, and he made an immediate impact again. So he's back to his old scoring ways. He's off to Chelsea, right? Is that the rumor? Is that a done deal?
That's pretty official,
yeah. So unfortunately, they lose him at the end of the season, so we'll see. But knowing RB Leipzig, they've got a new guy ready to go. So we'll see who that is. We'll see who that is.
But they in the end ended up in the spot that we thought they should have been in all along.
Third place.
Pretty
Champions League.
In the end, not that far. Like 5 and 7 points. In the end, not all that far back.
No, if they win this weekend and Bayern München loses, they're only 2 points apart. I think it'd be 68 and 66, respectively.
Which would be
so
wild.
Good for them. But then we're going right back to contention, because the last Champions League spot, we talked about the UEFA coefficients. Germany has a 4th spot. The last spot is up between 2 clubs, I believe, Union Berlin and Freiburg.
Yep.
It's not 3. It's comfortably those 2, right? Because Bayer Leverkusen are 9 points behind after them. So Union Berlin, and Freiburg.
Yeah, Union last week beat Freiburg. That was a big. But then lost to couldn't make it stick. Lost to Hoffenheim, to Pellegrino Materazzo's Hoffenheim, which I'm all about the relegation battle. I really hope that Union was gonna win this, so that Hoffenheim, because Hoffenheim is playing Stuttgart the last day, and if they had lost this game, they would have been right in there.
And now they're not playing with the same.
And now,
pressure.
they are. Well, now they are practically. I mean, they are safe on goal differential, which, Bochum is not going to make up a 26 goal differential on the last day. So so Hoffenheim's pretty safe. So that means this game is not going to mean as much to them, and also is not going to. Yeah, the math just changed this weekend pretty dramatically. It did not go well for my team, but if you want to go from the top, we can wait a little bit to get to that. German. But right now, because Union lost to Hoffenheim, they are now level on points with Freiburg, and so they have the four goal better goal differential. So not I mean, even theoretically overcomable. Freiburg is on the road in Frankfurt, and Union is at home against Bremen. So you would probably
2 tough matches. I mean,
give an edge to Union, but yeah, they still got to win it.
Dare to predict any of those games, especially with Frankfurt's form. Man, they've been yo-yoing all over the place. But so I'm German, and what that means, I like to do things systematisch, right? Like my dad.
All right, yeah. I'm jumping around. I'm sorry. So Union and Freiburg are going to battle for 4th place.
And you're giving Union the edge?
Well, because they are at home against Bremen, yeah.
Right.
I would say that's an easier game than Freiburg being on the road in Frankfurt. Although, as you're saying, both Bremen and Frankfurt are pretty much out of everything. And so you never know how these teams will show up on the last day. But I think
Frankfurt
in general,
Frankfurt getting ready for a cup final, also, mind you.
Right.
So
but I would also say, like the home Frankfurt at home, if it's the last game of the season, you're at home, you don't want to embarrass yourself. I think the Bremen sort of on the road, I think they might start their summer break a little early, because I think from a Bremen perspective, well, anyway, we're going to go in order. So that's the only the Champions League spot.
Who's going to get the Champions League spot? Union Berlin or
I'm calling Union.
I'm with you, and I believe the people are with you too, because Berlin could use it. One half of Berlin is have a really sad story. The other half of Berlin's having a hero story. So it's a yin and yang situation. And I would love to see, like I mentioned before, I would love to see Real Madrid go to the Stadion an der Forsterei for a Champions League group match. I would love to see something like that. And I think it'd be amazing. So I'm rooting for Union Berlin, but if Freiburg make it, good on them. It'll be a first for them too, right?
Yeah, they had that spot for a long time this season, but seems like, I mean, they've won their game against Wolfsburg, so that's keeping them in the hunt.
Whatever happens, it's a debut. It's a debut German club for the Champions League, which will be exciting. Which will be fun. All right, I don't think Freiburg made the Champions League before, have they? Not in recent memory.
I don't think so. Neither have Union. Yeah.
No, definitely not. And very cool. And Union was only in the 2nd division a couple seasons ago. Mm-hmm. And then, what were you about to? Where were we at?
Well, Bayer Leverkusen is next after they got Mourinho'd on Wednesday in the Europa League. That was just a classic, a game that only Jose Mourinho could love. I think the Roma's XG was 0.03. I think they had one shot that was not on goal. But and Leverkusen were very upset. They were like, "This is bunkered." They have no one to blame but themselves. They had a bunch of. It's not even that, well, anyway. Just this is our little Europa League, my little Europa League sidestep here.
With Bayer Leverkusen.
Bayer Leverkusen against Roma. Jose Mourinho thinks that he is a fantastic coach and a mastermind of soccer, both psychologically. And,
I am the special one.
He is the special one, and I do not like him. And I mean, it's also just it's just destructive, it's just absolutely destructive, just a bunker tactic. And but it's not, but on the flip side, this Roma team should not scare anyone. And it's like, I mean, I think they're 7th in Serie A at this point, so it's not even like this is people were like, "Oh, a defensive masterclass." It's like, no, this was just Leverkusen. I don't know if they were intimidated, or even in the first game they had chances. The goalie made a couple mistakes, and they really and they didn't score over both games, and so got no one to blame but themselves. And then we're very upset about these tactics, blah blah blah. This is going to happen. it sucks, but score a goal and then that's it. Anyway, Leverkusen
Well, the
this
good thing about
weekend.
the good thing about Jose Mourinho's tactics is they are yesterday's news because they were hop and hippie in the early to mid aughts and late aughts, but now all you can do is find them in the Europa League with a seventh place team. So thankfully, those tactics are yesterday's news.
It's
and
too
much more
bad. I
exciting
mean,
tactics.
I think Leverkusen had a real opportunity to make
They
this
were the
to make this
last German
final,
team.
and
They were the last German team. They were the last German team in Europe fighting for all of Germany, and they did not make the way to the final against the Sevilla, right? Who made a record like
I
100th
believe so.
final
yeah.
or something like that. So you're rooting for Sevilla in the final, Bjorn, against Roma?
I don't think I will give a flying fuck about that final. Honestly, I don't think.
Good. It's
I
funny
don't
you
think
mentioned
I'm
that
gonna.
because I was so uninterested with the Champions League semifinals. I think I even skipped them or I just caught the highlights or
Really?
something.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, like with I don't know. Also, just with my work schedule, I'm really tired around that time. But like, I don't know. I didn't really care. I mean, I also want to give a special shout out to Italy. The Italian league has not been what it once was, and it's gotten a lot of crap as of late. But they had Napoli being one of the best teams in Europe, winning the title, first time in
Yeah.
forever. They have two Milan teams. One of the Champions League semifinals was a Milan derby, with Inter making the way to the final. So good on the Milan teams. And then, yeah, we got Roma, maybe about to win the Europa League. So give it up for the Italian clubs going out there and winning titles.
Yeah, they had a lot of. They had the most. They were the country with the most teams left in Europe, and even though when you look at these Milan squads, the Serie A is the true retirement league. I was like, the Mkhitaryan's, the Dzekos, the Lukakos, the Girouds. It's like, wow, this is all a little long in the tooth. I mean, I watched a little bit of the Milan game, not that much. I thought the Man City Madrid matchup was very interesting because and then finally Madrid got that slapping that they really had coming for a few years now. Like there were a few where you were like, this is such an old team. How can they keep pulling it off? But they did. And it's funny how people just kind of people were just still believing. Like even though I mean clearly even in the first game City were quite dominant, but Madrid has been there before. They've been sort of outplayed and outpossessed, and then somehow it's just like you give the ball to Benzema and Vinny Jr. and somehow it happens. But then this time it finally did not, and it was a pretty decisive beating they received, and probably the end of an era. A lot of these people, I mean, got to mention Toni Kroos. He's not really. Like, I don't think we think of him as one of the all-time greats, but we probably should. Like he has
yeah, he's one of those understated guys. He's always a very
I mean he's
solid
he's a midfielder. He's not a flashy, obviously not a flashy
Right.
player, doesn't score a ton of goals, and especially at this point in his career. But he is one of the tidiest midfielders that ever played the game, and he has more Champions League titles than almost any other German player. I can't think of.
Probably. I mean,
yeah.
I think he was there when Real Madrid won 3 in a row. I believe he was part of all three.
Yeah,
of them,
for sure.
2 of them at least.
And he probably, I don't know. It's probably now time. Certainly, Luka Modric is. I mean, he's signed another contract. Everybody's going to stick around, but it seems like this may be the end of an era for this team. There's going to be a lot of turnover, probably.
Well, the big thing is, will Carlo Ancelotti leave and go coach Brazil? That's the big news.
He said he's not going to. He said he's going to stay.
Okay.
But yeah, that's been kicking around, and there's going to be. I mean, supposedly Jude Bellingham's coming, maybe. And so there is a midfield revamp is coming. I don't know what's happening with Vinicius Jr. He has all these. He's facing a lot of racial abuse. He may choose to leave. I don't know. We'll there's going to be a lot going on there. But I thought that was a pretty interesting matchup, and.
Manchester City, best team in the world right now, right?
City
They're having
and,
Bayern München.
I mean, this is
season.
Pep Guardiola. That team is a couple wins away. I mean, they're already because Arsenal Arsenal
they won the
crumbled.
English Premier League title because they won the
before
title.
they even played. They had won it, and so now
Right.
they're in the cup final and they're in the Champions League final, probably favored in both, and that could be one of the all-time great seasons of anyone. And this was it's a Pep Guardiola masterclass, because he was really, a few months ago when they were behind Arsenal, he pulled all the strings. He said, "Oh, this team is, maybe we're complacent, maybe we've won too many trophies," and the team responded. And speaking of German players, Ilkay Gundogan has been incredible over the last few weeks. Has also again a very tidy midfield player traditionally, but also in the current system gets very far forward and has scored a lot of goals, a lot of assists. And another player, he's a couple of years younger than Toni Kroos, so he's got some, but also getting up there. And his contract's up, so it's unclear where he will end up.
Bayern München have to make a play for him. Thomas Tuchel came out and said he needs a number 6, so to speak. We're signing a big 6 this summer. Gundogan is contract's up. I predict Stefan Stradamus predicts that Bayern München are going to offer a big old contract to Gundogan.
It's going to make the Dortmund. It's going to make the Dortmund to Bayern trip with a multi-year detour at Man City.
The great tradition of the Bundesliga.
The great tradition from Dortmund to Bayern.
Yeah. From Dortmund to Bayern. So that's Europe. It's a little Europe sidestep. A lot of Real Madrid talk. We wish Real Madrid the best, but they're having as disappointing.
No, we don't wish Real Madrid the best. We don't care about. I don't. They're fascists, basically, historically.
Well, they won the Copa del Rey this year. I think that's the only title they're going to win this year. So good up for Real Madrid and the pro-fascist club, according to Bjorn. Okay, anyway, Europa League spot. We got Bayer Leverkusen. Anyway. We got Bayer Leverkusen, Wolfsburg up for the last Europa League spot because it's Wolfsburg and Bayer Leverkusen.
Well, there could be another one. There could be another spot depending on who wins the cup final. It's Leipzig and Frankfurt. If Leipzig win, then there's an additional spot for somebody
that Frankfurt would get, right? Am I wrong?
Is that how it works? It's the finalist.
I don't know. Frankfurt's 8th place.
To do some talking.
Yeah, okay. Bayer Leverkusen, Wolfsburg, and Frankfurt are in the Europa League spot. Now, I excluded Frankfurt because their goal difference. If they win, they have to win by like 11 goals or something like that. So they're not going to do that. So realistically, it's just Bayer Leverkusen and Wolfsburg. However, Eintracht Frankfurt is 8th, and if you're saying they get a spot by winning the cup, then they can get in that way. And it seems that if RB Leipzig win, maybe by default they get in that way too, right? So it's like I think I just
read up on it. So it's the second Europa League spot goes to the cup winner, and if that team is already in it, so if it went to then you go to. The 6th place goes to Europa League and 7th place goes to the Conference League. So right now we have Freiburg is in the Europa League and Leverkusen is in the Conference League.
I see. It's a different shade of blue here. I see that. And if
Leipzig win the cup final, then the 7th place team would go to the Conference League, and the 5th and 6th place team would go to the Europa League.
So Bayer Leverkusen is rooting for Leipzig to win, because if they
Bayer
win,
Leverkusen is rooting for Leipzig to win because they would get an upgrade in their tournament. That's true.
Does the Bundesliga only have one Europa League spot?
No, 2 Europa League spots and 1 Europa Conference League spot.
Well, that's not what I'm seeing. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 is Champions League, 5th is Europa League, and 6th is Conference League. That's
because the second Europa League spot goes to
the cup winner. Right. So they have 2 spots that way. Got it.
Right.
And then technically also the 4th place team is a qualifier. So if they fail the qualifier, I think that sends them to the Europa League, right? Or am I wrong?
Right. That's true too. Yeah, because they have to go. Right. The place determines where you start in the. That's true. Yeah.
Well, anywho,
So anyway,
Freiburg-
Frankfurt could also.
So Bayer Leverkusen is not up for the Europa. I want to offer a clarification. Bayer Leverkusen is not up for the Europa League spot. Bayer Leverkusen and Wolfsburg are fighting for the Conference League spot, and Bayer Leverkusen could still make the Europa League, like I said, if Leipzig wins, and then via the rule they then make their way to the Europa League, and then Wolfsburg the Conference League. So
That
a
is
lot is up in
correct.
the air for them. That's a little complicated, but let's boil it down to Bayer Leverkusen and Wolfsburg are still up for Europe. What type of Europe depends on results.
As is Frankfurt. Frankfurt obviously is in the cup final and can make the Europa League that way, but also could still, if Wolfsburg and Leverkusen's losing this weekend, so that opens then the door for Wolfsburg and Frankfurt to overtake them.
Right. For the conference league spot.
In the case of Frankfurt, they need a 6 goal win over Freiburg to get past Leverkusen.
So if Bayer Leverkusen loses against Bochum, they're out of Europe altogether. So it's a big game for them to win.
Potentially, Frankfurt would have to win big. Between Leverkusen losing and Frankfurt winning, they have 6 goals to make up. So they would have to lose. Somebody would have to lose big or win big for Frankfurt to catch them.
Yeah, for Frankfurt to catch them, yeah. No, if Wolfsburg win at all and Bayer Leverkusen loses at all, then Wolfsburg's in the Conference League and Bayer Leverkusen's out. The only way they'd only be in Europe depending on the cup final.
Unless Leipzig wins the cup final, which you would think they would.
All the crazy permutations. All right, middle of the table. Mainz, as we said, had a red-hot season, but they've been skidding as they had that big loss against Stuttgart, but they don't have much to play for. They're going to finish their season comfortably in 9th place, just like they did last year.
They could be spoilers. For them. Could be spoilers for Dortmund. That's all they can accomplish.
Is it Dortmund hosting Mainz? Yeah, we'll see. Mm-hmm. Köln comfortably in 10th place. They'll probably be happy with that. Gladbach getting 11th. They had a very, very poor start this season. They pulled themselves out.
Kind of a poor finish too, really. I mean,
yeah.
That's kind of an under, right? You would have thought that they would do a little better than 11th.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be disappointing. Werder Bremen, their first year up after being relegated. They're happily in 12th spot. They're feeling good. And like we said, Hoffenheim under Pellegrino Matarazzo pulled themselves out of the hole and put themselves just above the relegation zone. And then we got Augsburg, who isn't out of the hot seat yet. Now let's talk what you want to talk. Let's talk the bottom of the Bundesliga bottom.
Yeah, there was a lot of shaking up this weekend. We had some, I was rooting for Frankfurt and Union Berlin to keep Schalke and Hoffenheim behind us, and I guess Mainz more than anything on Sunday. And really only Frankfurt came through with a tie at Schalke, and everybody else kind of let me down. Especially, the Hoffenheim. Okay, Hoffenheim beating Union Berlin, and then Mainz taking an early lead against Stuttgart, getting my hopes up, but then really crumbling and finally losing 1-4. Yeah, 1-4 at home to Stuttgart, which then that catapulted them from 17th to 15th place, and they're now, and plus they are playing Hoffenheim at home, which is now no longer such a difficult game. If they had both been on 32 points, then it would have been like, a win gets us past one of them for sure, but that's no longer the case. So now the way the math works is Hoffenheim has 35 and a much better goal differential, so they are safe. Mm-hmm. Augsburg 34, Stuttgart and Bochum 32, Stuttgart with a much better goal differential, Schalke 31, and Hertha is out. Hertha, thanks to a late, much celebrated at my house, stoppage time equalizer from the other Schlotterbeck, the good Schlotterbeck, Kevin. Yeah. Kevin came off the bench and got
Kevin. It's Keven. It's Keven.
Yeah, you still say Kevin though. Only if you want to be weird, you say What did you just say?
Kevin. Kevin. Is it Kevin? How do you say his name?
I think you just say Kevin. I think it's just spelled a little differently.
All right.
Anyway,
that's all I wanted to add.
Word Kevin. Yeah, it is spelled with 2 E's. But it's true. But that was a nervy affair, that game. My word, I really suffered through it. There was an early goal for Hertha that was correctly disallowed by VAR, but that was pretty stressful. And then in the second half, Hertha did take the lead through their first freaking corner kick goal. They kept the announcers kept saying Hertha has not scored from a corner all season. I was like, you're gonna jinx it. Stop saying that. And sure enough, they scored their first in the next to last game of the season. Decided to finally score a goal off a corner, and Bochum played pretty well. Had some chances. The goalie made a couple of pretty good saves, so we were in it. But then nothing happened until this equally kind of cheap stoppage time corner header from Kevin Schlotterbeck. And that was a very, very, very important point. I mean,
I just want to say that this is played at the Olympiastadion, and historically, Hertha Berlin has problems filling that stadium.
Oh, people!
But this weekend was packed. Maybe not 100%.
70,000 plus. A lot of them came from Bochum. Like you could hear
10,000, not a lot. Like a lot from Bochum, not majority, but 10,000.
No, but a lot of I could hear the Bochum. I could hear the Bochum fans on TV. They made the trip, and
but it's a huge packed Olympic stadium, summer day, big. It's the big show, and Bochum and Hertha, if they got anything other than the win, they died. And they were 1-0 up till the end. Bochum hitting the post once or twice, right?
Yep.
Getting close. And in the last minute, Kevin Schlotterbeck, who doesn't score much, but when he scores, it's important, scored an equalizer, and it's the kiss of death, right at the death, sends Hertha Berlin down. And Bochum lived to fight another day, going on to last week. Now, I just want to sidestep here and say Hertha, in addition to their problems on the field, they're having weird problems off the field. Financially, they have a partnership with something called 777 Partners, which is an American slush fund that I Googled. And on their website, they say that they have like 7 members and each contributed $7 million, something like that, which gives them a grand total.
Hence the name, huh?
Let's do the math. If 7 people give $7 million, how much money is that?
$49 million.
Is that enough money to be a 50% stakeholder of a Bundesliga club, do you think?
Can't be.
Maybe
that's how it started, and then now they have more money.
Well, yeah. However, the whole issue is in Germany, apparently their finances are not up to snuff. So it's like, maybe that isn't the case.
Money. Okay.
And the whole point is they don't have enough money. So this financial investment partnership, which continues the long string of bonkers Hertha Berlin like stories about their financial situation, from Lars Windhorst to here, they have this American slush fund, and I think the books aren't what they promised they were to be. Well, so there is a chance that in addition to being relegated, they're just not going to be able to afford a license, and going to the second division is not going to help their income at all because they're losing a lot. Mm-hmm. They make less than a third of the TV money from the top flight, and all they have are gate receipts, and as we discussed,
they're going to have to unload a bunch of players. I mean, they were starting Kevin Prince Boateng in this game. I mean, like, wild.
Talk about retro.
Yeah.
Is he 40? How old is that guy?
I mean, he's got to be late 30s. I don't think he's 40, but can't be. I don't know. He's
36. I guess he's younger than I realized.
Yeah.
That's still pretty old though.
That's up there for a midfielder in the Bundesliga. So, yeah, I mean, Hertha obviously pretty upsetting for them to go down on a stoppage time equalizer. I mean, my friend was texting me, they're in last place. You should win this game. I was like, well, they think that about us. They think, but also they say the same thing about us. If we're not going to beat Bochum at home, or are we going to, it goes both ways. These are both struggling team. So, but this has been coming for Hertha for a couple of years. I mean, we can't.
It's not the
be
first
too-
time I've seen them get relegated. They've done it before.
They've been close, and so now that's it. So
They need to get their act together. This will be a good opportunity for them.
the
So
situation
relegation
next week,
battle.
yeah, we have
Schalke,
Augsburg.
Bochum, Stuttgart.
Well, we have Augsburg on the road in Gladbach. So
Right.
they are not out of the woods. If they lose this game, then they're still in the
And
midst.
everybody else wins. Yeah, and everybody else wins.
Stuttgart,
and they're down.
everybody else has to win
Right.
for that to matter. Then Stuttgart at home against Hoffenheim, who really don't have much to play for anymore, thanks to
Right.
their win over Union. So Bochum is at home against Leverkusen.
Stiff opposition. Stiff
Opposition who could not put away Gladbach at home, which would have guaranteed them their spot. So this is going to be a tough one. Who knows? I think, well, and Schalke, we should say, Schalke
At
on
Leipzig.
the road at Leipzig, which again, Leipzig should win, but also they are now no longer fully engaged. So I would say, I don't know. I mean, if I had to bet, I think Bochum will end up in the playoff spot. I would say, which you.
I'm rooting for you,
predicted a while
bud.
ago.
Yeah, and they're going to play now. Also, a quick sidestep here: the Bundesliga isn't the only place for this kind of excitement. The Bundesliga 2 is also down to the wire. Heidenheim's in second place, and HSV is in third place.
And
But they're only a point apart.
Darmstadt
already won.
Finally
They're in.
wrapped it up. They needed like 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, they were like, "Win and you're in," and
Right.
they needed 3 weeks to do it, but now they're in.
So not only do we not know who the playoff spot is in the Bundesliga, we don't know who the playoff spot is in the Bundesliga 2. It's likely HSV. They both play the bottom 2 teams in their last week.
Yep.
But if Heidenheim were to tie and Hamburg were to win, then they flip-flop. And Hamburg's off the Bundesliga, which will be huge for them. They've been wallowing in the lower leagues for years now. And Heidenheim will then have to play Bochum or whoever makes their way up. So we don't know who the relegation candidates are yet. All will be found out after next weekend. Will it be Bochum? Will it be Schalke? Will it be Stuttgart? Will it be Augsburg? Will it be Heidenheim? Will it be HSV? All will be discovered after 90 little minutes.
It's gonna be
Next
very
weekend, tune in. ESPN Plus here in the United States. All sorts of channels elsewhere.
So
Sky
that's
Sports Deutschland.
That's
Yeah,
it, I guess,
that's it. This has been the Deutsche Woche. Deutschland Hour. Next week's the big deciding week. So many clubs up for so many things. Nothing is certain and nothing is determined.
Final game.
The
Stressful.
final game
It's going to be
showdown.
stressful.
It's going to be stressful. We'll see you here next week to see if Bochum's in it or if Bochum goes bye-bye and goes back to dominate the Bundesliga 2. We'll see. All right, tschüss. Bis nächste Woche. Join us for a USA Hour start in just a few minutes. Otherwise, see you all next week. Tschüss. We have an Etsy shop. Tell your friends. YouTube. Rate us on the podcast world. We're all over. Tschüss.
Yeah.
That's right, Hans. USA Hour coming up next in another stream. Tschüss. Bis nächste Woche.